GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? Is KF5 CDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is for all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. Weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL code of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 324. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is in several parts. General announcements. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas is when you can look through a telescope. National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, recent astronomical discoveries, constellation of the week, launches of the week, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I will turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please, from KF5 CDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll be your alternate net control station this evening. We'll go ahead and take low-power, short-time check-ins. You are one of those folks. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low-power, short-time.
Kilo India 5, uniform, Juliet Dustin in Dallas, low power.
Okay, I've got KI5UUJ Dustin in Dallas, low power. Anyone else?
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
got K5MCD. That's Cody in Dallas. He's also low power. Well, I won't belabor the point. Do either of you have anything you want to bring to the net before you disappear into the ether? Please come with your call. All right, let's go ahead and open it up to general check-in. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Hello, Bravo 5, Delta Mike, Charlie, Brian.
This is Alpha Golf 9er, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
This is Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson. Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Dallas, or Farmers Branch actually. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, Carrollton.
All right, let's go ahead and take those. I'm going to need a fill on one of the check-ins. I've got NT5TM Tony in Dallas, NV5F Virginia in Fort Worth. The next station I got, you were very noisy into the repeater. I think I got Delta Mike Charlie, I think. If that sounds like your call, would you please come back with your call sign and name and location, please?
Yeah, my apologies. Kilo Bravo 5, Delta Mike Charlie, Brian in Roanoke.
All right, I got KB5DMC. That's Brian. I think you said Louisville, but I don't know. But I've got you. AG9SG, that's Antonio in Dallas. AA5AH, that's Robert Richardson. KG5UFR, Jacob in Farmers Branch. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton. Anyone else over there like to come? Please come with your name and where you're transmitting from. All right, well, we'll go ahead and move over to Echolink. If you're over on Echolink, and I know there are a few, if you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Echolink only, please. I'll give you extra time.
Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, your weather.
Bravo 5 Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
All right, well, let's see here. Go ahead and get the folks checked in. I got KG5BZW, Jay near Weatherford, K5JDW, John in Norman, And I got Kelly, she's having some issues, or we're having issues with Echolink, I'm not sure. K5KTX, she's got some presentations, so I'm going to check her in. She must be coming, I think she's coming from her new residence, her new QTH, which she has written down as Point, Texas. I'll go ahead and put that down. And Kelly, I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not listening on that end of the thing. I'll check it later during one of the presentations and find out if it is warbly. There is a little bit of interference, but part of that's because, well, I've got the Echolink here and I'm transmitting from here, so there is some of that occurs, and I've noticed it's a little more pronounced tonight than most, so I'm hoping that's just what it is and you can still hear us. All right, I'll open the net up to anybody who'd like to join us this evening. Please come to your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
Okay, got WB50ZL, Brenda in DeSoto. Anyone else before we begin? All right, I think there's probably a lot of folks watching March Madness, so we'll just leave it at that for now. Miss Billy, we got 15 checked in, so back to you, KE5ICX.
N5BB trying to check in.
All right, I got N5BB, that's Bill, over in Irving, I'll bet. Put you down. Anyone else? All right, and I do have Patrick, KG5APL. He's over in Temple, Texas, I think. He's listening only. That's fine. Okay, I'm sorry, Billy. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Fine, Tom. I was actually going to, if you hadn't caught Patrick, I was going to let you know about him. So I copied that you said 15, and then I've got Bill and Patrick, so that brings it up to 7. Thanks to all who have checked in, and welcome to Skynet. This is KF5TDS, your net control for this session of the DAR. All right, let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement for this evening's net, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango, X-ray.
This is Tony, NT5PM. Good evening. What announcements do you have for this evening's net?
Good evening, Billy. Thank you very much. I have a couple of things. For anyone who'd like to try getting started with fox hunting, there is a sort of an unscheduled fox hunt going on at White Rock Lake. You can check out wa5wrl.org, Whiskey Alpha 5, whiterocklake.org. We usually only do these in the first and third weekends of the month, but we had an event earlier today, and so we're having an extra fox hunt going on in the White Rock Lake area. Good for beginners. Of course, we might all be sleepy, but this is not the last net of the night. The Afterglow Movie Discussion Net featuring Buck Rogers of the 25th century will be taking place at 10:30 p.m. tonight, plus or minus a few minutes. It's hard to divide your attention between Buck Rogers and Skynet, but you still have time to try. This is a real, actual show that was run on network television, so the production values are much higher than usual for an Afterglow movie. You can find out more at the Afterglow Movie Facebook discussion group. And finally, I realized this must be a fourth Monday because I was going through my notes this afternoon and getting ready for GeekNet. GeekNet will be meeting this Monday on the 14688 repeater at 7 p.m. You don't have to be a member of any club. We don't have to talk about ham radio stuff. Any news you think is cool and weird and any topic you think is geeky. I mean, what butterflies have you seen so far this spring? Is welcome. That's what I've got. NT5TM.
Thank you very much, Tony. All right, next up is Kelly, K5KTX. What announcements do you have for this evening's net?
Hey, Billy, this is K5KTX. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I wanted to make an announcement about the El Dorado Star Party. So the Texas Star Party is coming up in May. I think the registration has closed or is about to close. But I wanted to point out particularly the El Dorado Star Party, which is down south of San Angelo, between San Angelo and Ozana, and the, is that the name of the town? Anyway, the dates are going to be October the 9th through the 14th, and you may recognize that last date, October the 14th. That is the day of the annular eclipse. And they are going to be having some special activities. They are in the path of the annular eclipse. And, in fact, they're not too far from the center line. And they're going to have a special one day only. So if you can't come for the whole week for the Star Party, they're going to have a, day of event that you can come and just park and bring your telescopes or whatever. And so if you want to find out more, you can go to eldoradostarparty.org. And they will open up the registration, it says, in August sometime. So you want to maybe get on their mailing list, and I think that will be an excellent place to try to find a place to observe the annular eclipse on October the 14th. And that's all I've got. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Billy.
Thanks, Kelly. And I did look on the calendar, and October the 14th is a Saturday, so maybe if somebody from our group is out there, they could radio on Skynet. That would be awesome. All right, are there any other announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing any, so I will go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can also find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a offset. The ARC hosts several nets on Mondays. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. This is where you can come get some great recipes, share recipes, or get questions about food answered, or share about food. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communication. On the third Monday, come back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. And as Tony mentioned, on fourth Mondays is Geek Net. If there is a fifth Monday of the month, then it is a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. On Tuesdays, AmSatNet Eve is at 8 p.m., Q&A, info, and news for amateur satellites. Fridays is Search City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via search-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. Search City, all are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Net, with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And at 9 p.m., of course, is Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. The way the Afterglow Movie Net works is we have a big, long list of movies that people have volunteered to put on the list. We pick a movie, we watch it during the week, and then we discuss the movie on the Saturday Night Net. We talk about everything from plot and characterization to special effects, music, and any other interesting bits of information regarding the movie. So that is the Afterglow Movie Net. That's at Skynet. More on that in just a moment. And third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. We have the ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as I mentioned, following Skynet on Saturday nights at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. This time I will turn the net over to KE5ICX if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5 PBS.
Oh, thank you, Billy. And here it is. Bet you already know what the movie will be, but I'll tell you anyway. Buck Rogers looked out his Ranger 3 spacecraft window and took in the scene. He had been asleep for over 500 years and somehow magically reawakened. Even better, everything on board his NASA spacecraft still worked perfectly, including the air freshener, which still smelled like pine cones. From his vantage point, he could see people in capes walking flamboyantly in front of his ship. Gaudy colors, worn by overacting, loud-speaking, antagonist types who typically would attempt to take over the world. But there were so many of them. They were literally all standing in line, capes and all, trying to buy a stun ray or blaster cannon or something maniacal evildoers were always attracted to. Then there was a knock at the hatch. Rogers looked out the peephole and saw a short gold android waiting to wash his windshield. Rogers knew the 25th century was loaded with strange beings who obviously had no adult supervision all their lives. Join us for the next movie, Extravaganza, the original pilot episode of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century from 1979. Oh, and by the way, it did show in movie theaters in Canada, so now you know that too. But join us at 10:30 p.m., whether you're in Canada or not. Back to you, Billy, KE5ICX.
Thanks very much, Tom. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. One on frequency that would like to give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please come now with your call sign. Five KTX. Billy. What information do you have for us this evening? K5 KCX again. I'm standing in for Chaz, who is hopefully having a great time out in Big Bend National Park doing a Messier Marathon. And so I'm filling in for him, and I'm going to do a shortened version of this now, and then I'll give a few more details a little bit later. But the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas is a great organization here locally, and one of the things that we do is we have a monthly meeting, and that monthly meeting is held on the fourth Friday of every month, except for November when it's the third Friday, and then December we usually have an awards banquet instead of a meeting. And the meetings are held at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson, as well as on Zoom for members who would prefer to be socially distant and stay at home. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. In order to get additional information about the meeting topics, you can go to texasastro.org for additional information. The meeting includes great programs presented by members or guest speakers, and the current constellation of the month. So if you want to see Chaz and Dennis do this show live instead of on the radio, you can go to one of our meetings and get that, see the constellation of the month, which is always a lot of fun. We also have all of our public observing parties now have resumed, and I will go through all of those a little bit later in the next, but you can go to texasastro.org and click on the calendar tab at the top, and you can get all of the details, including the address and time of those events. And I will go ahead and turn it back over to you, Billy. This is K5 KCX. Thank you, Kelly, and I look forward to hearing more of what you have to say later, and I hope Chaz is having a good time at the Messier Marathon. Next up is National Space Society events and activities, so at this time I'll turn the net over to Bill. N5BB, the net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo. I happen to be the member-at-large and membership director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter, mainly the DFW area. We meet on the second Sunday afternoon of each month, starting at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving on Highway 183 at Beltline. Visitors are welcome to come and see one of our meetings. We have some kind of talk about human activities in space. This could be unmanned spacecraft. It could be humans going to space. It could be rocket tests. You name it. Could be the Mars Ingenuity rover. We have all kinds of different discussions. Helicopter, I mean. So the next meeting will be on April the 9th, second Sunday afternoon of April at 3:30 p.m. in Irving. I do not know the topic then. We're trying to get some NASA speakers for the next one, but I'm not sure if any of them have, if one of them has verified yet, confirmed. Today we had an event. We do a lot of outreach to schools and colleges and to museums, like science museums. Today we had an outreach thing at Harmony School in Garland on Firewheel Parkway. They had a STEM event there, and we had a whole bunch of kids with some parents, mostly kids, come by, and we got to talk to them about space. And the president of our local group, Ken Ruffin, gave a talk about an hour on the current status of upcoming space events, space flights coming up, different things like going to the moon and Mars and all kinds of things like that. And so this is a really good event this morning in Garland. We had a lot of people come by, a lot of very
of kids very, very excited about space, seen at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair. And so they came by and we had a good talk to them, and they were interested in space. The big event we have coming up here in the end of May is the International Space Development Conference in Frisco. The early bird discounted rates for that are probably going to end on March the 31st, which is Friday of next week. So if you're sure you're going to go, you might want to go ahead and sign up before then to get the discounted rates before they go up on April the 1st. That is the anticipated date of the increase. The website to find out about the International Space Development Conference in Frisco, right north of Dallas, is isdc2023.nss.org. So that abbreviation was International Space Development Conference, ISDC. So again, it's isdc2023.nss.org. If you have any interest in joining the National Space Society or have questions about the International Space Development Conference on May the 25th to 28th of this year at MC Suites in Frisco, or you want to join our local chapter, you're welcome to contact me, Bill, N5BB at ARRL.net, or space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. That's all I've got. This is N5BB. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And just a little bit of advertising. The National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. You'll receive meeting reminders and club activities. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is our discussion topic of the evening. So for this evening's discussion, I've chosen zombie satellites. First up, just a bit of history from Wikipedia. Zombie satellite is a satellite that begins communicating again after an extended period of inactivity. It is a type of space debris which describes all defunct human-made objects in outer space. At the end of their service life, the majority of satellites suffer from orbital decay and are destroyed by the heat of atmospheric entry. The satellites, however, maintain a stable orbit but are either partially or completely inoperable, preventing operators from communicating with them consistently. So some history. Transit 5B-5 is one of the oldest known zombie satellites. It was launched in 1965 as part of the Transit System, one of the first satellite navigation systems. Transit 5B-5 is nuclear-powered and still in a stable polar orbit, though operators are unable to control it. ES-1, also known as Lincoln Experimental Satellite 1, was a communications satellite launched by the United States Air Force on February 11, 1965, to study the use of super high-frequency radio transmissions. It never achieved optimal orbit and was out of contact for more than 40 years before spontaneously resuming transmissions in 2012. Sat Oscar 7 is an amateur radio communications satellite which was launched into low Earth orbit on November 15, 1974, and remained operational until a battery failure in 1981. Then after 21 years of apparent silence, the satellite was heard again on June 21, 2002, 27 years after launch. Galaxy 15 is a telecommunications satellite launched in 2005. In April 2010, only 5 years into a planned 15-year mission, its operator, Intelsat, lost control of the satellite and it drifted out of its orbital slot. Several months later, on December 27, 2010, the satellite rebooted itself and began responding to commands again. Intelsat repositioned it back into its original orbital slot in April 2011. IMAGE was launched in 2000, which is Imager for Magnetopaused Aurora Global Exploration, a NASA spacecraft studying the Earth's magnetosphere, unexpectedly ceased operations in December 2005. It was a zombie satellite until Scott Tilley, an amateur radio operator living in Canada, tracked it down in January 2018. On February 25th, contact with IMAGE was again lost. It was reestablished in March, but lost again in August. NASA is currently evaluating a recovery mission. And finally, on March 24th, 2020, contact with another lost Lincoln experimental satellite, LES-5, was made by Scott Tilley. The satellite is only in operation when its solar panels are receiving sunlight. CR.org did an article about Scott Tilley in April 24, 2020, entitled Long Lost U.S. Military Satellite Found by Amateur Radio Operator. It says, Tilley, an amateur radio operator living in Canada, has a passion for hunting down these zombie satellites. It says in 2018 he found a signal from NASA probe called IMAGE that the space agency had lost track of in 2005, and with Tilley's help, NASA was able to reestablish contact. But he has tracked down zombies even older than IMAGE. The oldest one he's seen is Transit 5B5, referring to a nuclear-powered U.S. Navy navigation satellite that still circles the Earth in a polar orbit, long forgotten by all but a few amateurs interested in hearing it sing as it passes overhead. Recently, Tilley got interested in a communications satellite he thought might still be alive, which was LES-5, which was built by MIT's Lincoln Laboratory. He said by scouring the internet, he found a paper describing the radio frequency that LES-5, an experimental military UHF communications satellite, should be operating on if it was still alive, so he decided to have a look. So this required the building of an antenna, erecting a new structure to support it, preamps, filters, stuff that takes time to gather and put all together. Tilley said even though the satellite was supposed to shut down in 1972, it's still going. As long as the solar panels are in the sun, the satellite's radio continues to operate. Tilley thinks it may even be possible to send commands to the satellite. If you want even more detailed information, you can go over to the website usradioguy.com. And you can find out a lot more information about zombie satellites, and you can also listen to the first recording NOAA 9 in October 2019 and find all kinds of links to other interesting information regarding zombie satellites. So there's my report for this session, the Skynet on zombie satellites. So again, the information comes from Wikipedia, CR.org, and you can check out the website usradioguy.com. This time, I would like to turn the net back over to our net control. There's been some folks that have joined us since the last round, and then you have my permission to turn the net over for Was Up. So this is turning the net to Tom, KE5ICX from KF5 CBS.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, let me pick up those two. I've got KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth, and then I got KF5ZBL. Bill, there's something really strange with your audio. I'm just going to put you down for Farmers Branch, but lots of bass, not much treble. It's a bit odd, but I've got you checked in. Anyone else?
Fill in. This is N5BB with a forward from... Bill is in Nashville.
Have Bill over in Nashville, KF5ZBL. There's another station trying to get in, but you're just bits and spurts into the repeater. Could you increase power or improve position? I think you tried on the previous round, but you were just noise. Try one more time, please. Okay, well, you obviously can hear us. When you transmit, that station that just tried to transmit, you are all noise. There's no audio whatsoever. It's just static. So you might want to check into that and see. Otherwise, I check in. Let's see here. So let's go to Kelly, K5KTX. She's going to be doing Chaz's What's Up, What's Up segment. So, Miss Kelly, go ahead.
Tom, this is K5KTX standing in for Chaz. KF5JHA, who I said earlier is in Big Bend National Park, or he may be on his way back home, I'm not sure. But anyway, we call this segment of Skynet What's Up, because it's about what is going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. The new moon was on March 21st, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. First quarter moon is on March 28th. On March 31st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,919 kilometers. Full moon occurs on April the 5th. The third quarter moon will be on April 13th. On April 15th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 367,968 kilometers. March the 27th, Mercury and Jupiter will make a nice conjunction in the early evening western sky. And on the same evening of March 27th, the Moon and Mars will be in conjunction high in the western sky. On March the 30th, the planets Venus and Uranus will only be about 1 degree apart in the western evening sky. In fact, this week, there's a good chance you could see up to 5 planets in the evening sky. Now, if you've never seen Uranus before, it's easier if it's closer to another object, but it is easily seen in binoculars. So this will be a great week if the weather stays nice and clear to go out and take a look at that one. Now, April the 10th is when a beautiful conjunction of the planet Venus and the open star cluster of the Pleiades happens in the northwestern evening sky. And this is K5KTX, and this is Skynet. next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be on Friday, April the 28th, 2023, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and will also be held on Zoom. The featured speaker this month will be my good friend Lonnie Wiege from Meade Telescope. And I'm not exactly sure about his topic, but I believe they said he was going to talk about the state of telescope manufacturing, and he's very passionate about that topic. And so that will be a great, some great information to hear about. There's a lot of state of interesting things going on in that manufacturing world with amateur telescopes. So it might be an interesting topic. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there was the opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing sessions. On the first Saturday of the month, stargazing is held at Fairview. On the second Saturday, the stargazing is held at Frisco Commons Park. On the third Saturday, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill at J.W. Williams Park. However, it was canceled last week so that they could participate in a special event tonight at Cedar Hill State Park. And then tonight is the fourth Saturday. The stargazing is held in Rockwall. So I wanted to check and see if anyone at one of these events is a ham radio operator and listening to Skynet, if they would like to come now and tell us what you're looking at and what kind of crowds that you have and so forth. So come now with your call sign. So not hearing anyone, so you can always check the TAS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Now, I'm not the astrophysicist that Chaz is, but maybe somebody or myself can answer your question. If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, good. I just knew somebody was going to try to stump Kelly. All right, so as the moon wanes early this week, so do the words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. So until next week, actually I'll be doing a couple of other segments this evening. Keep looking up so you know what's up. This is K5KCS. Back to Billy, our net control.
Thanks very much, Kelly. This is KFI-CDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DART Skynet. All right, at this time, I will turn the net over to Brenda, WD5OZL, for recent astronomical discoveries. So, Brenda, WD5OZL, the net is yours from KFI-CDS.
This is WB5OZL, and this article is entitled AI Finds the First Stars We're Not Alone. By using machine learning and state-of-the-art supernova nucleosynthesis, a team of researchers have found the majority of observed second-generation stars in the universe were enriched by multiple supernovae, reports a new study in the Astrophysical Journal. Nuclear astrophysicists in the universe are produced in stars, but the first stars born soon after the Big Bang, did not contain such heavy elements, which astronomers call metals. The next generation of stars contained only a small amount of heavy elements produced by the first stars. To understand the universe in its infancy, it requires researchers to study these metal-poor stars. Luckily, second-generation metal-poor stars are observed in our Milky Way galaxy and have been studied by a team of affiliate members of the Kavli Institute for the Physics and Mathematics of the Universe to close in on the physical properties of the first stars in the universe. The team, led by Kavli IPMU visiting associate scientist and the University of Tokyo Institute for Physics of Intelligence assistant Professor Tilman Hartwig, including visiting associate scientist and National Astronomical Observatory of Japan assistant Professor Miho Ishigaki, visiting senior scientist in University of Hertfordshire Professor Chiaki Kobayashi, visiting senior scientist. I'm not going to keep naming these names. Anyway, they used artificial intelligence to analyze elemental abundances in more than 450 extremely metal-poor stars observed to date. Based on the newly developed supervised machine learning algorithm trained on theoretical supernova nucleosynthesis models, they found that 68% of the observed extremely metal-poor stars have a chemical fingerprint consistent with enrichment by multiple previous supernovae. The team's results give the first quantitative constraint based on observations on the multiplicity of the stars. Multiplicity of the first stars were only predicted from numerical simulations so far, and there was no way to observationally examine their theoretical prediction until now, said lead author Hartwig. Our results suggest that most first stars formed in small clusters so that multiple of their supernovae can contribute to the metal enrichment of the early interstellar medium, he said. Our new algorithm provides an excellent tool to interpret the big data that we have in the next decade from ongoing and future astronomical surveys across the world, said Kobayashi, also a Lever Home research fellow. At the moment, the available data of old stars are the tip of the iceberg within the solar neighborhood. The prime focus spectrograph, the cutting-edge multi-object spectrograph on the Subaru telescope developed by the international collaboration led by Kavli IPMU, is the best instrument to discover ancient stars in the outer regions of the Milky Way, far beyond the solar neighborhood, said Ishigaki. The new algorithm invented in this study opens the door to make the most of diverse chemical fingerprints in metal-poor stars discovered by the prime focus spectrograph. The theory of the first stars tell us that the first stars should be more massive than the sun. The natural expectation was that the first star was born in a gas cloud containing the mass million times more than the sun. However, our new findings strongly suggests that the first stars were not born alone, but instead formed as a part of a star cluster or a binary or multiple star system. This also means that we can expect gravitational waves from the first binary stars soon after the Big Bang, which could be detected. Future missions in space are on the moon, said Kobayashi. All right, done. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thanks very much, Brenda. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This time I will return the net to Kelly, K5KTX. The net is yours from KF5 CDS.
This is K5KTX. And we call this segment of whoops, hold on, let me go back to the right script. Sorry about that. I got kicked out. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellations of the week of this week is Puppis, the poop deck. The constellation of Puppis is located in the southern hemisphere. It represents the stern of the ship Argo on which Jason and the Argonauts sailed to get the Golden Fleece. Puppis is used to be part of the much larger constellation Argo Navis before the constellation was divided into several smaller ones. Carina, the keel, Vela, the sails, and Puppis, the stern. Puppis is the largest of the three constellations. To find Puppis, start with the belt of Orion. Draw a line to the southeast of the belt, which should result in running into the brightest star, Sirius. Keep going past Sirius to the southeast, and you arrive at Puppis. And you know what time it is. It's time for our jokes of the week. Well, these are Kaz's jokes of the week, so I apologize in advance. Where was the captain sent after he hit another ship? Management. Why does Norway's Navy have barcodes on all the ships? When they come back into port, they can Scandinavian. How do Viking ships communicate with each other? Just to be easy. Morse code. What did the pirate say when his child caught the ship on fire? Our son. Why is it that religious ships never make it far from port? Because they are holy. Maybe I should let that joke sink in. I just watched a documentary on how ships are kept together. It was riveting. And then he has some bonus jokes this week. What kind of ships do vampires like the best? Vessels. I was told that Jesus died when his Royal Caribbean ship sank, but the priest said Jesus actually died on the cross. So, was that cruise a fiction? There's a ship called 3.14 because it's filled with pirates. Why do ships have circular windows instead of square ones? So that if the window breaks, water doesn't hit you square in the face. My name is K5KTX, and this is Skynet. Now to the constellation, and hopefully I don't butcher the names of these stars. Asmodus, or Z Puppis, is a misplacement and mistransliteration of Aspidus, the traditional name of nearby Iota Carina, which is derived from a Greek word meaning shield, which may be a reference to the shields that Jason and the Argonauts carried with them on their ship, the Argo. Asmodus is a G-type, or yellow star. It looks yellow in the telescope. Kappa Puppis is a nice double star. It is easy to split. Both stars appear yellowish white. The two stars are so identical in color and brightness, they look like a distant set of car headlights. Now looking at some Messier objects, starting with M46, which is a nice open cluster. It is easy to find, as nearby M47 is visible to the naked eye from a dark sky site. Both clusters are obvious in the finder scope. M46 fills the field of view in a 25mm eyepiece at 84 power. There are many stars of varying brightness, but none that particularly stand out, giving the initial impression of somewhat uniform brightness. The planetary nebula NGC 2438 is inside this cluster. M47 is seen from a dark sky site as a bright patch in the Milky Way. Visually, it is a very different cluster than M46. Overall, it is more sparsely populated than M46, but its stars are mostly brighter, and they are more varied in brightness than those in M46. M93 is easily spotted in a 50-millimeter finder scope as a fuzzy glow near the star Aphrodite disk. It is a fairly sparse cluster with stars of mostly uniform brightness. There are two stars that are somewhat brighter. One is blue-white, and the other is noticeably orange-red. And this is K5KTX, and this is Skynet. Are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Puppis, the poop deck. I have just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and 10 in about a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Puppis, the poop deck. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchison and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website www.constellation-guide.com for information. Next time, Chaz will be back, and this is K5KTS sending the net back to Billy, our net control.
Thank you very much, Kelly, and you did a great job with the joke. This is KF5CDS, Billy, your net control for this Skynet. All right, next up is space launches for this week. So at this time, I'll be returning the net to our alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX. If you will do a check-in round, see if anybody is on frequency that would like to check in, and then you can go right into your report on space. Turning the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, from KF5CDS.
And thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WV4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
All right, we picked up one, WV4MFI, Ted and Dallas, low power. I have you checked in. Okay, our next topic this evening is space launches for this week. I've got a few of them. Let's see here, March 25th, 26th, that would be tonight. The GSLV Mark III launch of OneWeb 18. This is the Geocygnus Satellite Launch Vehicle Mark III, which will launch 36 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developed in the constellation hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit and low latency broadband. March 29th, we have a Soyuz launch. This will be from the plastic, I can never say that, Cosmodrome in Russia. The Soyuz rocket will launch an undisclosed payload for the Russian military. Going into March 21st, how did that, oh, that was when it was updated. Sorry, I got a new format here, interestingly, so I got to keep track of it here. We have in May, Long March 2F, Shenzhou 16 will launch on a Chinese Long March 2F with 3 Chinese astronauts to rendezvous and dock at the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. This is China's 11th crewed space mission and the 5th to the Chinese space station. Crew members have not been announced in China, by China yet. We have on March 30th, Falcon 9 Starlink 6-2. This will be launched from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of second-generation Starlink V2 mini internet satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. On March 30th, another Falcon 9 launch, SDA Tracy 0. This will launch from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Round 10, Tracy 0 demonstration satellites for the U.S. Military Space Development Agency. The launch is the first of 2 Falcon 9 missions to carry SDA demonstration spacecraft for the future Constellation of military missile tracking and data relay satellites. Falcon 9's first stage will return to the landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. Moving into April, we have a Falcon 9 launch of the Intelsat 4E Tempo. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The rocket will launch the Intelsat 40E communication satellite for Intelsat. 40E will join Intelsat's EPIC fleet of high-throughput satellites providing in-flight connectivity and other mobile communication services over North and Central America. 40E is a partial replacement for Intelsat 29E, which failed in 2019. 40E hosts NASA's troposcopic emissions monitoring of pollution, that's TEMPO, instrument to measure atmospheric chemistry and monitor air pollution over North America. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have on April 8th, Falcon Heavy launch of Viasat 3 Americas. This will be from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. The Falcon Heavy rocket will launch the Viasat 3 Americas broadband communication satellite. Viasat 3 Americas is the first of at least 3 new-generation Boeing-built geostationary satellites for Viasat. A small communication satellite named Arcturus will launch as a secondary payload for Astronomy. Then we have April 9th, Falcon 9 Transporter 7, SLC-4E, Vandenberg Space Force Base. Falcon 9 rocket will launch Transporter 7, a ride-share flight to the sun-synchronous orbit and numerous small microsatellites and nanosatellites for commercial and space customers. Then we have the SLC-40 will be launched Cape Canaveral Space Force Base. Falcon 9 will launch another batch of second-generation Starlink V2 mini internet satellite. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. April 13th, Ariane 5. There we go. We get something other than Falcon. The ELA-3 will launch from Guyana Space Center in French Guyana. Ariane Space will use the Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated DA-260 to launch the European Space Agency's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer mission, or JUICE. The JUICE spacecraft, built by Airbus, will make detailed observations of the giant gas planet and its 3 large ocean-bearing moons, Ganymede, Callisto, and Europa, with a suite of remote sensing, geophysical, and in-situ instruments. JUICE will enter orbit around Jupiter in July of 2031. This will mark the penultimate launch of Europe's Ariane 5 rocket. And then finally, Falcon 9 launch in April. We don't know exactly when. O3B mPOWER 3 and 4. This will be a second pair of OB3 mPOWER broadband internet satellites in the medium Earth orbit for SES's Luxembourg. Satellites built by Boeing will provide internet services over most of the populated world, including SES's O3B network. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's it from me. Back to you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX.
name is Tom, right next to space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will return the net to Kelly K5KCX. The net is yours from KF5 CDS. Billy again, this is K5KCX. Researchers observing with NASA's James Webb Space Telescope have pinpointed silicate cloud features in a distant planet's atmosphere. The atmosphere is constantly rising, mixing, and moving during a 22-hour day, bringing hotter material up and pushing colder materials down. The resulting brightness changes are so dramatic that it is the most variable planetary mass object known to date. The team, led by Brittany Miles of the University of Arizona, also made extraordinarily clear detections of water, methane, and carbon monoxide with Webb's data and found evidence of carbon dioxide. This is the largest number of molecules ever identified all at once on a planet outside of our solar system. Cataloged as VHS 1256b, the planet is about 40 light years away and orbits not one, but two stars over a 10 farther from its star than Pluto is from our sun. That means the planet's light is not mixed with light from its stars. Higher up in its atmosphere, where the silicate clouds are turning, temperatures reach a scorching 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Within those clouds, Webb detected both larger and smaller silicate dust grains, which are shown on a spectrum. S-1256b has low gravity compared to more massive brown dwarfs, which means that its silicate clouds can appear and remain higher in its atmosphere where Webb can detect them. Another reason its skies are so turbulent is the planet's age. In astronomical terms, it's quite young. Only 150 million years have passed since it formed, and it will continue to change and cool over billions of years. In many ways, the team considers these findings to be the first coins pulled out of a spectrum that researchers view as a treasure chest of data. They've only begun identifying its contents. So all of the features the team observed have been spotted on other planets elsewhere in the Milky Way by other telescopes. Other research teams typically identified only one at a time. No other telescope has identified so many features at once for a single target. Scientists are seeing a lot of molecules in the single spectrum from Webb that detail the planet's dynamic cloud and weather systems. The team came to these conclusions by analyzing data known as spectra gathered by instruments aboard Webb, the near-infrared spectrograph, or NIRSPEC, and the mid-infrared instrument, or MIRI. Since the planet orbits at such great distance from its stars, the researchers were able to observe it directly rather than using the transit technique or a coronagraph to take this data. The team's paper was published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters on March the 22nd. Now to space history from this past week, beginning with March the 19th, 2008, a gamma-ray burst that occurred 7.5 billion light-years away from Earth, halfway across the visible universe, was detected by NASA's SWIFT satellite. The explosion was so powerful that the afterglow was briefly visible to the naked eye, making it the most distant object ever seen by humans in recorded history. To put that in perspective, that means the explosion occurred before our solar system even formed. On March the 20th, back in 1962, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev responded to President John F. Kennedy's March 7th letter suggesting teamwork in space exploration. Khrushchev was positive about the prospect of international cooperation, saying that in the future, international cooperation in the conquest of space will undoubtedly extend to ever newer fields of space exploration if we can now lay a firm foundation for it. Khrushchev's letter prompted talks between representatives from the Soviet Union and United States and ultimately led to the first U.S.-USSR agreement on space cooperation. That agreement was signed just a few months later in June 1962.
March 21st, 1965, NASA launched the Ranger 9 lunar probe. The probe was designed to image and impact the moon's crater, Alphonsus, which was thought to be the site of relatively recent lunar volcanic activity. The spacecraft carried 6 cameras that were pointed directly at the moon's surface during the final phase of flight. 20 minutes before impact, the camera system began to warm up, and for the final 19 minutes before impact, Ranger 9 successfully relayed nearly 6,000 high-resolution images, some of which were broadcast live on television. Data from the mission dramatically improved scientists' understanding of the moon's mass and led to the discovery that the moon's center of mass is displaced from its geometric center. On March the 22nd, 1997, Comet Hale-Bopp made its closest approach to Earth. Hale-Bopp was discovered independently by Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp while it was just outside of Jupiter's orbit in 1995. At nearly 665 million miles away, this made Hale-Bopp the farthest comet discovered by amateurs at that point. Being unusually bright, Hale-Bopp probably wasn't that difficult to spot. It appeared 1,000 times brighter than Comet Halley did at the same distance. Hale-Bopp won't return again until around the year 4385. On March the 22nd, back in 2010, after 5 successful years of operating on Mars, the Mars Exploration Rover Spirit sent its last transmission to Earth. Spirit landed on Mars on January 4, 2004, 3 weeks before Opportunity. The rover successfully completed its 90-sol mission and functioned 20 times longer than expected. On May 1, 2009, Spirit became stuck in soft sand. After numerous attempts to wrest Spirit from the soil, NASA decided to continue Spirit's mission as a stationary platform. Spirit functioned in this capacity until this day in 2010. Spirit gathered a bounty of scientific data about Mars in addition to the spectacular pictures you have probably already seen. In relaying data critical to characterizing the current and past geology of Mars, Spirit brought us closer to understanding the role of water on Mars and whether there were conditions there in the past that could have supported life as we know it. March 23, 1965, Gus Grissom and John Young launched aboard Gemini 3 in the first U.S. spaceflight crewed by more than one astronaut. The mission was designed to demonstrate the capabilities of manned orbital flight as well as evaluate the new two-person capsule design. Overall, Gemini 3 marked the beginning of a new phase in learning the skills and testing the technology needed to put humans on the moon. One historic first of this mission was not planned. Gemini 3 flew the first corned beef sandwich into space. It was jokingly smuggled aboard the spacecraft by John Young at the behest of astronaut Wally Schirra. Though it was undoubtedly more appetizing than early space food, the crumbs produced by the contraband sandwich posed a potential risk to flight equipment and vents. The sandwich in question, now encased in acrylic, holds a place in history in the Grissom Memorial Museum in Mitchell, Indiana. On March the 24th, 1975, mission controllers terminated communication with the Mariner 10 probe nearly a week after the spacecraft's third and final Mercury flyby. Mariner 10's primary goal was to study the atmosphere, surface, and physical characteristics of Mercury. As the spacecraft approached the planet, its cameras revealed what scientists termed chaotic terrain littered with craters and ridges. The spacecraft's magnetometers revealed a weak magnetic field. Radiometer readings suggested nighttime temperatures of minus 298 degrees Fahrenheit and maximum daytime temperatures of 369 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, I won't be complaining about our summer. Apart from its discoveries, the spacecraft itself set a remarkable number of records. It was the first spacecraft sent to Mercury, the first mission to explore 2 planets, Mercury and Venus, during a single mission, the first to use a gravity assist to alter its speed and trajectory, using Venus to loop into solar orbit, the first to return to its target after an initial encounter, and the first to use solar wind as a major means of spacecraft orientation during flight. finally, astronaut birthdays this past week. We have 3 from March the 24th, yesterday. The first one from 1932, Ludwig Vandenberg, who was part of Space Shuttle mission STS-51D. March 24th, 1951, Kenneth Reitler, Space Shuttle missions STS-48 and 60. And then March 24th, 1957, Scott Horwitz, who was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-75, 82, 101, and 105. And of course, we don't want to forget today's special birthday from 1928, Jim Lovell, who was part of Gemini 7, Gemini 12, Apollo 8, and of course, Apollo 13. That's all I've got this evening. I will send it back to you, Billy. This is K5 KTX.
Thank you, Kelly. Did you see John's question over there about gamma ray burst? He wanted to know if it was LIGO. Do you know if it was or not?
I do not, but I was going to use the famous Google to see what I could find out, and I will get back to you.
Sounds great. We'll move on with our next segment and then just do a recheck in flight passages over the next couple of days. So this time I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us that information. KF5CDS.
All right, thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. The International Space Station has 2 pretty good passes. You can look for a few more. I get all this information from heavensabove.com. So let's see here. We'll start with April 2nd. We have minus 3.9 magnitude. 2120 is the time that we'll start the pass. It'll reach its highest point at 86 degrees at 2124, and it'll fall to the southwest at 2124 at 86 degrees. So it'll disappear into shadow overhead. We have March 2nd. This one is minus 3.9 magnitude at 2120. Reach its highest point. Oh, I did that, 86 degrees. Let me try April 3rd here. That one is minus 3.3 magnitude out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 2035 in the evening. It'll fall to the east-southeast at 2038.07. Next up is Envisat. Here, jump down to Envisat. And we have, there's actually a zillion different ones. I'll highlight the ones that are most interesting. March 26th, 2.9 magnitude at 5:40 a.m. It reaches its highest point 64 degrees at 5:45 a.m. And it'll fall to the southwest at 5:46. 27th, following evening, there are a couple of passes, but one of the better ones is at 7:03 a.m. At 5:03 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 5:08 a.m. and it'll fall to 40 degrees at 5:09. On the 27th, there are also 2 passes. The good ones at 5:03 a.m. reach its highest point at 5:08 at 56 degrees. It'll fall to the south-southeast at 5:09 at 40 degrees. The 29th is 2.9 magnitude at 5:27 a.m. out of the north. It reaches its highest point at 85 degrees at 5:32 and falls to the west-northwest at 5:34 at 38 degrees. And then, let's see, April 3rd has a good pass. That's, let's see, 3.0 magnitude, 5:40 a.m. It'll reach its highest point at 60 degrees at 5:45 and it'll fall to the south-southwest at 5:48. So there you have it. Back to you, Miss Billy, unless you want me to do a final check-in.
I'm going to take a minute and see if any check-in stations with any remarks or questions. So And then it gives Kelly a little bit more time on the Google. Does anybody have any, are there any check-in stations with any other remarks or questions? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing anything, Kelly, K5KTX, have you been able to find out any information on that?
K5KTX, as best as I can tell, it was that the LIGO experiment did not detect that. It was, I believe it was up and running at that point, but I think it's just the Swift telescope, the NASA Swift telescope, was the one that actually detected it. So that's all I can find. This is K5KTX.
Thanks very much, Kelly. Appreciate you looking. All right, now we'd like to do final check-in round, so this time I'll return the net over to Tom. ICX, if you will do a final check-in round and give me a final count. Be great. So this is the K5 ICX from KF5 PDS.
And this is KE5ICX. We're going to do final check-in. This is last call. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Well, Miss Billy, I guess that's it. We have 20 check-ins this evening. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I copy that tonight we had 20 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. Hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to me at w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5 PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Discovering the Universe. And in about 5 minutes, join us for the Afterglow Movie Net, where tonight we'll be discussing Buck Rogers' TV pilot. 7-3, everybody.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and thank you for doing an excellent net. And she's right. We'll be back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and to discuss Buck Rogers in the 25th century, the television series pilot from 1979. So join us then. You don't even have to have seen the pilot. You can just discuss whatever you want about movies. So back in 5. This is KE5 ICS. All right, it is time for the Afterglow Movie Net. I am KE5ICX. Yeah, you can't get rid of me that easily, can you? So tonight's movie that we will be discussing is actually from the TV series. And this was Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, which came out in 1979. It ran from September of 1979 to April of 1981 on NBC. There was a feature-length pilot episode to the series that was also released as a theatrical film, which is what we watched, and maybe you did too. We saw it as a first, as a part one and a part two. It was developed by Glenn Larson and Leslie Stevens. You may remember Leslie Stevens, who created The Outer Limits, and then Glenn Larson, who created, what was that thing? A lot of the A-Team and stuff like that. I think he did that one. So two different guys who were executive producers who had very different takes on the entire idea of science fiction. So, well, I don't know. We ended up with Buck Rogers. That's what it ended up being. So let me read to you the plot a little bit, because this is what we'll be talking about. The episode, or two episodes, called The Awakening, Part 1 and Part 2. So it says, in 1987, lone NASA astronaut Buck Rogers is piloting Earth's last space shuttle mission, Ranger 3, when a storm of ice meteors shuts down life support and he is frozen for 504 years. He awakens in the year 2491 aboard the alien flagship Draconia, which is headed to Earth disguised as a diplomatic mission. I don't know, how do you disguise the spaceship? The mustache on it, I guess. The Draconians repair Buck's shuttle, but secretly plant a homing beacon on board to track its way through Earth's defense shield. Upon arriving at Earth, Buck is escorted to the city of New Chicago by starfighters commanded by Colonel Wilma Deering. Once at the city, Buck is met by Dr. Elias Stewart, who tells him he is now in the 25th century and that everyone he knew has been killed centuries ago in a nuclear holocaust. When the tracking device is discovered, the authorities accuse Buck of espionage, but Buck claims Draconians have set him up and that their representative, the ravishing Princess Ardala, is arriving in an armed warship which violates the peace treaty with Earth. The authorities refuse to believe Buck and sentence him to be executed. However, Wilma has second thoughts and arranges to give Buck a second chance to prove his innocence. Wilma and Buck lead a force of starfighters to the Draconian ship to surreptitiously search it. But before they can, the ship is attacked by 7 marauders. In reality, Draconian ships masquerading as pirates. In the ensuing combat, Buck shoots down most of the attackers and saves Wilma's life. When a celebration of the treaty with Draconians ensues on Earth, Buck sets out to prove the Draconians' hostile intent by seducing Ardala, returning with her to the Draconian ship and sabotaging her attack fighters before she can launch them against Earth. So as I mentioned, this is a 2-hour pilot episode with a revised version for a theatrical release, just simply called Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, with a different opening credit sequence, additional scenes, and also the use of Dick Vereen as voice of the Draconian PA system. It was syndicated as a 2-part episode. It starred Garrett Henry Silva as Keen, Duke Butler as Tigerman, H.B. Haggerty as Tigerman number 2, Vic Perrine, uncredited, and replacing William Conrad as the Draconia PA announcer, and Pamela Hamsley as Princess Ardala. There's also Joseph Wiseman appeared briefly in the theatrical version as King Draco, but does not appear in the TV version. Oh well, so sad. So there's the plot. Maybe you saw it when it was first on. Maybe you watched it this week. Maybe you don't remember anything about it, or you remember the old serial, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. It doesn't matter. We're more than happy to have you here, and we can discuss things that are of interest to you, and we will discuss Buck Rogers, which is of interest to us once we saw it. So what we'll do is I will take check-ins, and you let me know your call sign, your name, and did you see Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. We will then, after check-ins, go through the plot and see if the plot was any good. Then we'll go to characterization, find out if they were any good, and then we'll go on to the special effects, music, and anything else, including leftover things you wanted to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins now. If you saw Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, let me know that, but you don't have to have seen it. You can just check in and be part of the cool kids. So please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Buck Rogers in the 25th Century?
I guess someone has to be first. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, I did see it.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto. I did see it.
All right, well, we picked up 3. There's Puppis. I've got NT5PM, Tony in Dallas. Yep, you saw it. NB5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yep, she saw it. WB50ZL, Brenda in DeSoto. Yep, she saw it. Now, I'm not sure. The one station breaking might have been Cruise. I could be completely wrong. I only got a little bit of voice out of that. So if you didn't increase power, improve position, we'll try again. Anyone else who would like to check in, please do so now.
Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jenner Weatherford on Echo Link. I saw the part 2.
All right, I did pick up J, KG5BZW near Weatherford. That other station, your audio was so low. I'm so sorry. If you can get on Echolink, that might be a good way to go as well. But I couldn't make out anything. Anyone else who wants to check in, please come out. Okay, well, I think there's enough here for a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll just go down the list. So we'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think of the first 2 episodes of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century? Have you seen it before? And what did you think about it from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. Actually, I had seen this before. Well, I don't think I saw the pilot, but I have seen several episodes of this before. We had finally gotten to an old TV show that I actually saw when I was very small. I certainly remember the buddy, that's all, folks, little robot that annoys us all so much. The plot was okay. It was typical for television. It was not overly complicated. It was unfortunately heavily padded by lots of info dumping and repeated explanations to make sure no one was ever left behind. The second part had, I believe, a 4.5-minute previously seen on that I had to skip past because it was just so tedious. There's a reason I gave up watching TV years ago. Full of commercials, so padded. But, by the standards of TV, it was okay. It was comprehensible. We did have some potential. We had the evil woman and the good woman and the misunderstood guy from outside who's going to come and rescue them all because he's the only one who knows to turn off the battle computer and use the Force. Erin definitely spotted, because she saw the second half, that this was absolutely a post-Star Wars television show, from the way people walked down corridors to certain plot elements like needing to turn off your battle computer. It betrayed very obvious Star Wars influences at many points. So, it was okay. I wish they'd have cut some of the info dumping, but what can you do? Television, I guess they wanted to include everyone in those days. NT5 to you.
Yes. Well, yeah, you're right, Tony, and I will agree with you on that one part. I'll save my comments, but yeah, after I watched part 2, the recap went on forever and ever, so I was thinking about Jay, the fact that he didn't see part 1. Well, he did see part 1. It was like, as you said, 7 minutes long, so he didn't miss anything at all. All right, next up is Virginia NV5F. Virginia, what did you think of Buck Rogers in the 25th century, The Awakening?
KE5 ICX and the net. This is Virginia NV5F. Well, let's see. I watched this last night, and I enjoyed it. I had seen it years ago. I think a friend of mine in college and I rented this one weekend when we just wanted something fun. We're both science fiction fans, and we liked Star Wars and Star Trek, and we had remembered this from childhood, and we wanted to see it again. And I'm going to be a little kinder about certain things than Tony was. I have watched the state of television and film degrade into its own self-importance in the last 20 years, and I really think that back then television and film, cinema-type film, were very separate media from each other, and that was cool. We had 3 networks, we had a few shows, everybody had seen them all, we could relate through television. Now we've got, movies at your fingertips all the time. We've got TV shows with movie budgets. We've got movies that are so long and incomprehensible because apparently the art of exposition is gone. You have to see one of those movies that's half an hour or 45 minutes longer than it needs to be, and you have to see it 2 or 3 times to understand what's going on. And back then, a smaller plot was squeezed into a larger time frame, and we could actually relax and enjoy the movie and all the funny little scenes and asides, because we did have time to have not overly, but we just have a lot of good exposition, and you could keep up with what was going on, and there was room for just colorful character nonsense. And this was a Glenn Larson production, and it's funny, I was riffing on it last night while we were watching it online about how it was, or I was kind of riffing on one of his later shows, Knight Rider, and I was noticing how many things were similar. You had this guy kind of, in Knight Rider, he was a man who had basically had his identity erased and began as a different person, and Buck Rogers, being asleep for 500 years, had a similar vibe. He was this quirky guy in this serious world, and he was trying to make the most of it, and there was the talking computer and the comic relief, and like Tony said, the good lady and the evil lady, and then there was the sort of this, Buck Rogers had the kind of Devin character, and you know, it had that very same vibe. It was fun. It was it had the silly Tweaky, the silly robot, and voiced by Mel, kind of, you know, have a I'm getting into characters now, but you know, it was easy to follow. It was good versus evil, and I liked it, and I plan to watch more of these. I hadn't seen this show in a long, long time, and I thought the plot was pretty typical TV plot, and I agree with Tony. There were definitely some, you know, it was a couple years after Star Wars, and we had shows like this and Battlestar Galactica, all trying to cash in on the Star Wars thing, and so you had the funny talking robot and the humor, you know, got to throw a little humor in your science fiction battle scenes, and it was definitely a callback to Star Wars, and it even reminded me a little bit of the movie The Black Hole that Disney did right after Star Wars, trying to cash in on that too. It had a little bit of that feel, just the lighting and the cinematic quality of it, and I thought the plot was fine. It was easy. It was set up for a good setup for a TV show, and very crazy, unbelievable, silly, corny, fun, over the top, you name it. I liked it. KE5ICX and Company, this is Virginia, NV5F.
All right. Thank you, Virginia. We'll be back to you later for characterization. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. What were your thoughts for Buck Rogers in the 25th century from 1979?
This is WB50ZL. Well, I liked it. I didn't remember those episodes, but I know I watched the series religiously. I don't know why. Either I just don't remember those, or maybe I missed the first couple of them for some reason. But it was real typical of the entertainment that we had back in those days. So many of these adventure shows were like this, and they were just lots of fun. It was mindless popcorn. You didn't have to pay too close attention to the plot. Just carried you along. Lots of action. But you know, one son at a time. So we got to have a lot of skin, and you know, that was just real typical of its day. So, well, you know, they're trying to sell commercials, so that's what the game is. It was a good era for science fiction. This was actually quite a while after Star Wars, which came out in 77. So this is like 10 years later. But there was just a lot of science fiction back then, and I enjoyed it all. I have no quarrel with the plot or anything. It's a little cheesy, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being cheesy. It was entertaining. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Yes, cheese is good. Okay, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on Buck Rogers in the 25th century, the pilot.
This is KG5BW. I thought it was the part that I saw was a little bit of a fever dream of a show. I did like the attempt at world building, and I wish they kind of went into that a little bit further. I don't know. Maybe if I'd seen the first episode, except for as I understand, I saw the first episode, so maybe not, because it really jumped around a little bit too much for my liking, and of inconsistency with Twiki and the doctor. I don't know what the doctor's little computer face. I like that design right there. It's kind of interesting, just having these little computer faces for the trial. Presumably anybody could take a sledgehammer and just whatever, but the whole world forbids it, and maybe they have special magical powers or whatever. Not magic, but sci-fi magic, to prevent that kind of thing. They didn't really explain why Twiki. I can't even remember the name of. Well, fuck. Okay. Captain Rogers. It didn't explain why Twiki and the academic thing explain well why. Oh, yeah, you need us to survive out there, and then they turn it around. It's like, oh, they're after us. Wait a second. What the heck? You're telling me that you can't survive without those characters, and yet those characters are actually the ones that put Captain Rogers in nature. Okay, now that's a little bit much. They didn't, and of course, it's Captain Rogers is picking up Twinkie and doing whatever. Yeah, sure, they provide some necessary info or something, and that's it. But surely they could have a little bit of sense filled in. But anyway, whatever. Didn't hate it. Actually, on the note of whether or not I've seen this before, I know I've seen episodes of this before too. I'm sure the not network, but the UHF channels back in the day were showing a few episodes every now and then. I don't know when. I remember Twiki. That's kind of an impossible character to not remember with its unique design. I think I said my 2 cents. KG5 PGW, back to that.
All right, thank you, Jay. Thank you for your comments. I've got some here in a minute, but let me go ahead and open it up. We are at the bottom of the list, so if anybody would like to join us, we are talking about this week's movie, which is Buck Rogers' 20th Century, 1979 TV pilot, which also ended up a feature-length motion picture. So if you'd like to join us, please come down with your call sign.
Kilo Echo 5 Bravo Tango Zulu, Royce in North Dallas. I saw the movie at a motion picture theater. How copy?
And you said Royce in North Dallas, is that correct?
Roger that. I seem to be having a little issue with my mobile unit tonight, so I grabbed my HT.
Well, being on an HT, you actually got a very good signal. You're very readable. And I'm glad you mentioned that you saw the theatrical version. Of course, that was a long time ago, but go ahead and give your comments, and then I've never seen, well, actually, I never saw this two-part episode. I've seen many of the episodes from the first and second season, but never the pilot, so I don't even know how to compare. But if you got some compare and contrast on the feature film version versus the TV, by all means, and any other comments you got, go ahead.
All right, then. Like I said, way back in the day, we went and saw this at the motion picture theater with the popcorn and the Dr. Pepper. And we saw it advertised in the paper, my buddy and I, and I was like, this is a Buck Rogers I've never heard about, and he hadn't heard about it either. So we decided, I think it was a midnight movie even, so we went ahead and checked it out. But as soon as we saw the credits roll with Glenn Larson's name on it, we knew what to expect, and pretty much we were not, disappointed. We were disappointed, but yeah, it was Glenn Larson. What are you going to do? And then we weren't surprised when it got picked up for a TV series.
All right, thank you, Royce. Okay, well, that is a comment. Let me go ahead and ask if there's anyone else out there who'd like to check in. And, by the way, Bryce will be going down the list again. We'll be talking about characterization. So what you can remember, it's probably been a while since you've seen it, so we'll give you special dispensation. But anyone else who'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Buck Rogers from 25th Century? And I better mention that I'm KE5ICX, so please go ahead. Anyone who would like to check in.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington. Yes, that's all the film.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sarah Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the film. Some of the usual suspects have shown up, so we'll go down the list. We've got Cruz, KI5KWG, and KB9SOK. We'll start with Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what'd you think of the awakening?
KI5KWG wasn't as bad as I had remembered, or maybe just the pilot episode was better than the rest. So I never watched this show very much because I didn't care for it. And the robot character in particular bothered me. It just gave it such a childish feel. And it was kind of ridiculous. My father told me about the Buck Rogers serial in the theater. And somewhere along the line, I had seen one of those originals, or at least part of one. And it remembered it was being awful for what it was. So I went back and watched one of those serials in my that having come out in 1939. It was a lot better than I had expected. They were beaming people, transporting technology in that episode. That's made me think where it began. And I read up a little bit and noticed that they all had he's been asleep for 500 years, and the comic books and movie serials from the 30s and 40s, and this one all came up with different reasons that he was asleep for that long, and all different starting points. I thought this one was probably the weakest, especially since they were going to start a TV series if it was successful. So I thought that could have done a better job on the backstory. And as I mentioned, let me reset. The robot really bugged me. BBD tagline it had. Listening to Jay, it dawned on me is he was absolutely right. If we are running from bad guys, and it's me and a robot and a computer hanging on to the robot, and they stop me during the pursuit to tell me, oh, well, they're not after you, Cruz. They're after us. Bye. You guys are so utterly despicable to me. So, and it would have made the series so much better, in my opinion. That's what I've got for you on this KI5KWG. Back to that.
That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, let's see. I like your comment. Let's see, you got an alarm clock and a little midget robot. They're after us. Yeah, well, good. I'm glad I'm leaving. I love it. Okay, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about the plot for Buck Rogers in the 25th century from 1979?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Overall, I actually did like it. I kind of had forgotten that right before I had moved here to Fort Worth 3 years ago that I'd actually had seen this on Amazon Blu-ray, and I ended up buying it. And in the process of moving, I kind of forgot I hadn't even had it until you reminded me last week of Buck Rogers. So I actually dug through some boxes and actually got it out and watched it, and watched a couple more episodes just to kind of remind me of the series, because yeah, I hadn't seen it since it was on TV back in 1979, so I had forgotten a lot of it. And yeah, it was definitely cheese, but it was the kind of cheese that I like. I like a lot of those little series. Of course, enjoyed the original Star Trek, and then of course Battlestar Galactica. And clearly, you can see they were using some of the props and stuff from Battlestar Galactica for this one. In fact, I remember watching it back then and was disappointed that it was only 2 seasons, which was kind of typical, 2 or 3 seasons. Oh, we got a lot of these science fiction films because of science fiction TV series because of the cost. Unfortunately, the major networks are notorious for that, not giving them much of a chance. But to actually get back to the story, there's definitely a lot of cheese there. But yeah, they were just, each episode was just a simple plot. We didn't have these long-running background themes that where you need to watch 2 or 3 seasons to know what happens, or even more. Sometimes, it's like those Star Trek. Each episode you can see independently and not necessarily have to see the rest. And the same way with the Buck Rogers. Obviously, this was a 2-parter, so of course you'd want to see both parts. But after that, it's pretty much you didn't have to really... what I thought was interesting at the time was, obviously we'd had Battlestar Galactica, which, was more of a story of, what happened when we created these highly intelligent robots that obviously they were trying to kill us. Well, this was kind of the opposite. This had, after the nuclear attacks, they actually turned to computers to actually save us, and they were trusting them to take care of the planet and repair it and kind of guide them, even though that maybe one part of it I found a little weird was just, obviously when they're having the trial thing that the actual computers weren't more logical than what they were, and they're acting more like humans, which is, I guess they're trying to give them a human feel, but at the same time, you would have thought they'd been a little smarter there. So that part, watching it back now, so many years later, you realize, okay, that part didn't kind of, make as much sense. But I thought it was kind of interesting how they did that twist on the plot, that it was different, that we were used to computers to save us this time and not kill us. But yeah, it's just, obviously a very simple plot. Once again, you would have thought that once they figured out the plot that they were, potentially there was a weakness in their shield, you think they would have changed the pathway to make sure it wasn't an issue. But okay, so yeah, there's definitely a few plot holes. We can pick it apart. But really, this was just a show about just kind of having fun. And yeah, it's definitely a popcorn kind of show. You just watch it, just kind of enjoy it. Don't dive too deep into the plot. And it was definitely that era. Felt very much like the show of the 80s and stuff, which I kind of enjoyed. So it was kind of fun going back watching this old series again, and just kind of reliving those old memories. And like I said, I forgot a lot of it, but it was kind of neat seeing it. So overall, I liked it. So back to net, KB9 is okay.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. And yeah, I agree with you on that. The caramel corn kind of entertainment. All right, before I make my comments, anyone else want to check in and weigh in on Buck Rogers in the 25th century? Please come now. All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and give my comments. I pretty much agree with everyone else's comments. I was, at the time, way back when, I was a Battlestar Galactica fan, although not as much as I was Star Trek, because Star Trek actually seemed to adhere a little more to the science, whereas Battlestar Galactica did not. And but it had really great special effects at the time. I said, well, this is really cool, and John Dykstra was involved and really done some really great work. So that show turned out to be very expensive to produce, and they did a stripped down, put it on blocks version called Galactica 1980 later on. It came after this series. But in an attempt, after the astronomical costs that came from Battlestar Galactica, Leslie Stevens and Glenn Larson came up with a cheapened version and using reused props and everything for this show. And I think the scope kind of got dropped down too. So, they did the Buck Rogers thing, and I was okay with that. As shows went, of course, you had the crazy costumes and all the stuff going on. For this, with the two-part episode, there was a lot of exposition without a lot going on, and I think Tony mentioned that it was repeated a number of times. That did slow it down considerably. But you could go and get yourself a refreshment, or make yourself a sandwich, or an entire dinner, and really not miss anything, because it's pretty much that's all that happened through the whole thing. So I found it somewhat kind of plodding. The battles were okay, but as has been really seen in a lot of particularly television shows, and Star Trek was no exception to this, is once you've created special effects, very expensive special effects, you have a tendency to reuse them over and over and over and over again. And the problem with that is when you're doing space battles, nothing makes any sense, because you take one stock piece of footage and you glue it to another piece of stock footage, and none of the battle sequences, which is what made Star Wars so great, are there. So you're stuck with kind of reasonably good special effects, but none of it makes any sense on screen. And the Marauder ships, the same one blew up like 300 times. It's like, okay, here we go. I know it's going to blow up about 2/3 of the way off the screen. Also, when they do that, there's no kinetic energy. It just kind of blows up and stops. But that, I guess, is special effects part. I won't go there. The shuttle, the last of the space shuttles from 1987, I guess. Okay, fine, I'm all right with that. Ranger 3 and all that. The thing was that how does that thing manage to work after 504 years in frozen space? And in fact, how does Buck Rogers manage to work after 504 years in space? I'm thinking that the whole thing would run out of power and oxygen, and if you're in hibernation, that not breathing at all and cold and hot temperatures would somehow not preserve you so well. I don't know, it just seemed kind of odd. And then when they serviced the ship at the Draconia, it's like they did it in an afternoon. Okay, just defrost it and just power it up. And then they said that the computer on board knew exactly where it was going to land. That was after they got to Earth because it was New Chicago, or it was in the Chicago area. I don't know if too many shuttles actually land in the Chicago area, but maybe they do, and I just don't know about it. I don't always get everything from NASA. The other part is, of course, is the mechanical, technical part of all this, and that is that the computer figured this out 504 years in the future. The Earth is someplace different than what it was 504 years earlier. So there's that, and it manages to properly land. Is this with Buck Rogers? This is just on autopilot. Did Buck fly it? And if he flew it, what did he fly it with? Did it still have fuel in it? Did they know what kind of fuel to fill it up with and all that? Just didn't make any sense. And then you got the bad guys on the Draconian. It's obvious these people are bad people, but they're going to trust them? What dummies do that? Oh, yeah, I know, the Robinsons and Dr. Smith. They were pretty stupid because they always let Dr. Smith screw everything up. Well, they got the same thing here with the Draconian crew. I don't know. Henry Silva looked like the typical, bad guy in all of this. Although, what's her name? Princess Argala. She had a nice hat, as they said. That was brought up. Some of the funny so-called jokes in that were pretty sophomoric, I thought, for G-rated stuff. So I guess I didn't have a lot to say about it. I was expecting more, I guess, from the pilot, since I had never seen it before, but I had seen the series. It is very entertaining. I thought many of the series episodes are actually better than the pilot in some ways. I think they tightened it up, made Buck Rogers a little more engaging and funny. So I was okay with that. And I think they scaled back on the beady thing with Tweaky. They really just went crazy with it in the pilot. Still don't understand. I'm not sure what the alarm clocks are supposed to do and the council and all that. Did I fall asleep or miss something? Are they robots? Are they this non-corporeal humans from the past or something? And why are the alarm clocks so important? Why aren't they just, using people instead? Or are they just the ones that have to fly the ships? Are the alarm clocks in charge? I'm not entirely sure, because you can carry them around, or you get tired of them, throw them in the trash, and what are they going to do? You just kind of hug him and tell him to go get you a refreshment, and that's it. He makes a nice little bartender. So I'm a little confused by all of that, and I don't think they ever really explained it, or if they did, I wasn't paying attention, which is entirely possible. Oh, and they got to have the peace treaty, of course. This is a thing they did with, this is what they did in Battlestar Galactica and that. It's like the Trojan horse and everything else. Oh, we're here to be your friends, and they bring this menacing, gigantic spaceship to them, and decide that that's perfectly okay. The Draconia, they couldn't find something smaller, like a Pablo boat or something. No, they didn't. They just managed to bring this big, huge ship in and pretend that we're just here for this. We're here for the drink, I don't know. It just seemed kind of silly. But then again, on Battlestar Galactica, they were fully trusting too. Oh yeah, the Cylons are here. They're going to be our buddies. They're going to help us recarpet the Battlestar, and they believed that. And I guess I don't know. Stupidity is an international language, I guess. All right, and then there's always the trial. We're going to kill him. It seems like for an advanced race that has perfectly dry cleaned all whiteware, would not resort to killing people they don't they don't know, and then blaming Buck for with circumstantial evidence. But Dr. Alarm Clock even said that was circumstantial evidence. So he knew that that's it. Humans are stupid, and alarm clocks are smarter. That's got to be what it is. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top. The next section is talking about characterization. So I've kind of done that a little bit. Maybe you guys can elaborate much more than I can. So we'll start with Tony. NT5TF. Tony, what did you think of the characterization and the acting on Buck Rogers in the 25th century from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom, and I'd like to thank you and Brenda and Virginia. I think you all noted something that, yes, all that repetition made me think of the way my younger brother used to watch TV shows back in the day. He couldn't watch this one show. He was a very ADHD person. He would randomly change the channel. He'd get up and go do something else. He'd make a snack. He'd get a soda from the fridge. He'd turn to another channel, and then he'd eventually go back to the show he was nominally watching, which drove everyone else in the family crazy. But yeah, a show like this would have been perfect for him with lots of redundancy in case of problems in transmission. With the characters, you know, they were really pretty awfully simple people. Our hero was very heroic and good and extremely good-looking and irresistible to all the women in the galaxy. Yeah, the people were very humble and accepted the direction of the computers. Just kind of helpless in a way. We need this primitive barbarian man to come save us. The only character I genuinely found interesting was actually the female villain, Princess Ardala. She seemed to face a crisis here. She's competing with all of her other sisters to be her father's heir, and she's got these courtiers who want to use her, or at least that one guy named Kane. Probably there were others implied who want to use her for their own ambition. Apparently, at least judging by Wikipedia, she wasn't in the show a whole lot. But you know, villains are always more interesting than the heroes because the heroes have to be so boring and the villains can be so interesting. So she was my favorite. So I was entertained, but of course the characters were awfully simple. The acting was, you know, reasonably competent, it seemed to me. No one forgot their lines on camera, or at least they only used the good takes. You know, it was okay. Here we're off to a promising start with some entertainment. Perhaps we'll watch more of it. NT5TF.
Hi, thank you, Tony. And yeah, actually, I think Virginia, who's the ND5F coming up next, didn't you go and watch another episode immediately after that? I had to go to bed because I had to get up early and go inflict pain on myself. So, Virginia, ND5F, what did you think about characterization for Buck Rogers in the 25th century?
KE5ICX in the net. This is NV5F. I thought it was all right. It was very stereotypical, archetypal. Like, you know, Tony covered it pretty well as far as the overall feel. It's a pretty common theme. You know, the fish out of water, hero. And I think the character that way, the way they did Buck Rogers, and juxtaposed his, you know, kind of down-to-earthness, you know, of the current day. I mean, it was 1987, which was a whole 8 years later than the show came out. So he was basically from the present, you know, at the time that the show came out, and I think they put it in 1987 just so that they could have it be a little more believable that he was in a high enough tech, you know, ship or shuttle that he could somehow be preserved for that long. I think that's the only reason they used 1987. But ultimately, that expressed a concern that that we were having back then about, you know, what's the future going to be like with technology speeding as fast as it is, and so I think that was common. That was kind of a common to have the main character be sort of a foil, you know, for the culture at large. And I'll cite Knight Rider again, you know, the Glenn Larson sort of trope of the, you know, we're going to have this guy who just totally lampoons everything that's going on around him and kind of makes fun of, you know, the seriousness and the technology and there were other shows that I think that, you know, have characters that do the same thing from even later eras. You know, I'm thinking even of in Star Trek, the whole show Enterprise kind of did that. You know, we have. In fact, I think they got way too. I don't even want to get into Enterprise because I like the show, but there was stuff about it that could have been like 100 times better. But anyway, I liked Buck Rogers. I thought he was fun and likable and cute and attractive, and you know, the robots were. They were an interesting rip-off of R2-D2 and C-3PO because the anthropomorphic one was the goofy, kind of the goofy one, and then the one that looked like what did Dave? He was the non-anthropomorphic one, but he was the serious one who, you know, he was like C-3PO to Tweaky's R2-D2, you know, kind of goofiness and yeah, Tweaky was a little bit cartoony and even had a great cartoon voice over artist to do his voice. And, you know, it was just, I guess they wanted to get the kids, you know, who had liked the robots from Star Wars, so they had to use those characters, and they were, you know, they were a good contrast to each other, and they were very, you know, very attractive to kids. And I remember when I was a kid, that was my favorite thing in this show was the goofy robot. And of course, you had the you know, the vixen evil princess, but she was pretty interesting, and she seemed to have, she had kind of a, you know, an ambiguous position in the whole situation, and I even though we're in characters now, I do like what Tom, what you said about how in all of these shows, the humans are just so naive, you know, even the new version of Lost in Space that's on Netflix, it's like, oh God, no, you know, don't let her out, because Dr. Smith is a female in that one. They keep trusting her for some reason, you know, so, yeah, we had a lot of that in Battlestar Galactica too, so, and I don't know why humans are so dumb in these shows, anyway, characters were typical of this era and this genre, and I think pilot episodes are easy to criticize because they're setting up for something that's, you know, going to take a lot longer to flesh out all the details, and they're kind of not trying to be like a movie. They're not trying to, you know, get you completely engaged in the characters right away. They want to leave you wanting more, so you'll come back next week. So I think that's to be expected in something like this, and I love to go back to pilots after I've seen an entire show and see how ambiguous the characters were because they didn't have the Bible for the show together yet, and they were, you know, they were making things up as they went along, and I love to watch like shows that have really long runs and then go back and immediately watch the beginning shows again right after I've watched the whole thing and see, wow, how were they able to fully develop the characters, or how well were they able to do that and have it stay consistent. And you know, I think back in the day they really flew by the seat of their pants a little bit more, and it was just like, oh, we need bad guys, we need good guys, we need a cute guy that the girls will like, we need a pretty lady that the guys will want to watch, we need something funny for the kids. And I think that's what they had, and I thought it was fine. I'm tired, and I've had a pretty long, full day, and I'm glad to just be sitting here listening to everybody, and I'm not gonna wind myself up about it too much. So I hope everybody else has something a little more in depth to say than me, K5ICX in B5S.
All right, well, thank you, Virginia. Well, I'm going to interject this, because one of the things about TV back then is that they had to produce a number of shows. Now, I think this one, let me look and see. There were 24 episodes in the first season. 24 episodes. That's a lot of episodes. Today, an average series has, streaming series have anywhere up to 10 episodes, sometimes 6. And even some English series only have 4 episodes per season. Now, granted, they're longer episodes. They're not like 44 minutes long. And they'll run a full hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, something like that. But even still, it's far less material. Plus, you don't have to put the series out every September or in January or something like that. And, you know, when you think about 24 episodes that you have to produce in a year, that's a lot of episodes that you have to put out and churn out. It's one a week practically, and then you have reruns after that, fortunately. And maybe you've got some time to ramp up before you start the next set of episodes. I know Star Trek would start early, a month or so early, the original series, in order to do that. Well, now you don't have to do that. So the plots and story and some of the effects and everything else have to be produced very, very quickly. You talk about the difference between movies and television. Well, there is a major difference back then. At least you can have up to a year to make a film, or more in some cases. Well, I'm going to stop because I'm out of turn. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what did you think of characterization and the actors acting in, what is it? Buck Rogers in the 25th century, KE5ICF.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I think it was well cast. The evil woman was deliciously evil. She is beautiful, but she's a bad guy. Buck Rogers was so charming and delightful, and we all fell in love with him. And apparently a lot of men felt that way about Colonel Deering. She's a lovely person. Met her at a con once. She was so friendly and so nice. She's just beautiful. And this is back in the late 90s. She still looked like she did way back when. Gil Gerard, I saw him at a convention too. He did not age well. He had some substance and eating problems and didn't look so good. But she did a demonstration on stage of Tai Chi. She's quite good at it, which is how she stays fit. And anyway, she was delightful. But I was a little disturbed. She was just really quick to sentence Buck Rogers to death. It's like, could we talk this over, or maybe get a second opinion? She seemed kind of capricious in that. Twinkie was annoying to me, but I'm not a small child, so I understand the need for that. And the whatever that alarm clock was, I also didn't understand the whole point of those things, who they were, what they were, why they lived inside these clock faces. I don't know. I think that was just something to make it a little more science fiction-y. But like so many movies or TV shows of this era, very formulaic. You got to have your fight scenes. You got to have your romances and your action sequences. That's what people wanted to see. There was no heavy story. There was no philosophizing, no preaching, just entertainment. em up chases spaceships. These are pretty good spaceships. I liked all of the spaceship activity. So I'm a little uncertain that a guy could move 500 years ahead and be able just to fit right in with the technology. You think about somebody who was asleep for the last 500 years, what would he do with today's technology? I don't think he can absorb it at all. But it looked to me like 500 years didn't bring as much technological change as you would expect, except, of course, they went through a Holocaust. But, boy, he just fit right in, no problem, and adapting to, new technology 500 years into the future. And I do question whether his life support would have held out and he would have awakened just fine. He was simply in the pink after all that time, which, who knows? I don't even remember that they successfully explained why he got frozen like that. But anyway, that's how you move the story. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, I asked those same questions too. Never mind. He was frozen, freeze-dried or something. Came back just fine. He just had water. Next up is Jay, acting.
KG5PGW. Okay. Brenda just brought up a point about 500 years in the future, but it's one of those darn things that it's like, okay, yeah, how is all this stuff going to survive that long? And I just wanted to bring up the point. It's not just. I mean, you have to accept this for the story because it's just so good. It's one of those things. It's like, okay, this is a trope. Yes, it's very absurd, but we just got even language. I mean, we're talking 500 years. Shakespeare was about 500 years ago, a little bit less. See how all the language changes between now and then. Someone that's been, and of course, English. Forget the fact that everybody's speaking English. I'm just saying that even if for some reason everybody is speaking English, which is already kind of absurd. So many idioms and words just kind of die and are created that it's just so different. But anyway, whatever. Okay, and second comment I had was, the alarm clock. I remember them in this episode kind of mentioning in passing they were the saviors. I actually had a name for them too, and in both Twiki and the non-anthropomorphic the alarm clock thing, they were both this type of thing, a person. I'm not a person. Name is a group of whatever. It doesn't matter. They could be. Now I can't. Whatever. I mean, that's not what I'm thinking. Cyberman. Yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. Even though those are all. I believe. I'm bouncing all over the place there. It doesn't matter that they. But these guys were actually, as reported, were the saviors, and in fact, I believe they said that the Earth didn't really. It wasn't like a nuclear holocaust. It just got real crappy. But it turns out these guys were created, and they ended up being the saviors or something. That's how it ended up, which is kind of interesting in its own way. But anyway, I want to say something about the consciousness of the lady. Man, I'm sorry, I'm bad with names here. I'd be happy to use the same device that I'm echoing to research, so I can't really look at stuff when I'm speaking, unfortunately. So I couldn't refresh myself with the names. But here, anyway, what do I want to say? I kind of forgot what I was going to say. It's just kind of strange how, at first, how much she quick to not trust, and then later how quick she was to trust. It was just another one, a bit of those one of those things that just really wasn't explained, but I mean not explained, but demonstrated. Let's put it that way. Because it's not really something you would explain, but demonstrate. I can't think of anything else. The other characters were pretty flat, and others have said archetypes that they're put there to move the story along or whatever, but. Besides the evil characters, of course, that's already been commented on. I don't have anything else to say. KQ5, BTW, back to that.
All right, thank you, Jay. And this is KE5ICX. We're talking about tonight's movie is Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, the 1979 pilot, or two-part episode, or major motion picture released in Canada, or not Canada. Next up is Royce, KE5BTZ. Royce, you still out there? What do you got to say about the characterization and the acting in our fine movie this week? Okay, I suspected he might have drifted off. That's okay. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what'd you think of the characterization and acting in our fine film?
KI5KWG, but since I led with this last time, I believe, I think it's kind of becoming my specialty on these films is noticing the wardrobe or lack thereof of the main female characters. So, of course, I was a little disappointed that we did not have animal skin bikinis worn by the colonel. And but I really didn't have much to complain about her outfit. I thought if it couldn't be an animal skin bikini, cave girl styled, and what they had her wear was acceptable. Oh. So we already understood what her character was there to do, and from the very get-go, just like all those other sci-fi films. I thought all of the main characters, all the main characters were a little bit, well, the two main characters were a little awkward in their parts at the beginning of the film, and didn't seem to really be projecting much of a persona. more like worried about whether they're getting their lines right, I thought. I guess that's understandable, given the project source. But it does seem to me, again, as I started with on the original transmission, that these were fair. It seems like they might have been able to have kind of done a better job of modeling who they were and what they were going to try to appear to be as actors. But I don't know, I can't act either. And then my last comment I have written down here is when your new friends from a different world tell you that they're draconians, believe them. Hello, we're the draconians. Oh, so you're the bad guys? No, the bad guys are from a different quadrant. We're harsher and more severe than they are. We're the draconians. Just like it doesn't work. The etymology just doesn't work in a sci-fi. And I don't think they're the only ones that have draconians. But anyway, I think that's what I'm... AI5 KWG back to net.
I love it. Nothing like telegraphing your real intentions. Well, they could have been the Draconians, I suppose, and that would have brought up a whole different kettle of fish. All right, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think of the acting and the characterization in our fine film from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I think everybody's pretty well said it. They were pretty basic. They meant all the basic things you expect. The hero was the hero, the villain was the villain, and then you had the supporting cast and the comic relief. But I thought it was okay. I thought it was decently acted. As the series goes on, the characters do get better established. And they start to get their foothold in kind of, the part they're really going to play moving forward. And so it does improve as the series goes. I think a couple of people have already mentioned that. And I do believe that to be true, at least from the few episodes that I've watched after the pilot, and if I remember right, from way back. The little, as everybody's now calling them, the alarm clocks, they were constructed after the Holocaust. They were all individual computers with artificial intelligence, and essentially humans turned it over to them to run the planet and to make all the major decisions, because they said because humans had done such a horrible job of making decisions that they wanted to turn it over to an artificial intelligence, and that's what they were. Even though they did look like alarm clocks, and they seemed to almost during the trial act more like humans than artificial intelligence. To kind of comment some of the other comments about, of course, the humans being so dumb, which is kind of, even in some of the science fiction today, you still kind of see that, really. But, they do it because, we got to get into trouble somehow so we can fight our way out of it. If every time, even though it's very obvious, oh, that's a trap, but we're going to go in there anyway, and so they got to have some reason to have an episode. Otherwise, if they all just stayed home and played it safe, it'd probably be a pretty boring episode. So yeah, they kind of had to do that. And like you mentioned before, back in the day when they had 24 episodes, obviously a lot of episodes were kind of basic, and so they always had to get them into some kind of trouble to cover 24 episodes. Where today I do think on some stuff they do think a little better about it, and even though they still do some, but like I said, it's only 10 episodes now, so they got time to put a lot more thought into it and make them a little more what seemed to maybe be realistic. But in some ways, in some of the modern stories, yeah, they are better, but sometimes I kind of miss having, the multiple episodes, because it seems like now you watch a couple episodes and you got to wait an entire year to watch it again. We got that with The Mandalorian. It took almost 2 years before we got to see, even though there's a few episodes, with Boba Fett, but, it just seems like you got to wait forever to watch those couple of episodes, and it's kind of frustrating. So it was kind of nice on some of the old series. At least you did get, you got to watch a lot of it. But anyway, yeah, the characters are just, basic, got better as the series went on. Overall, I think the actors did a decent job for a television series. So yeah, back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean, and you made some good points. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and ask anyone else want to join us this evening. We're talking about Buck Rogers in the 25th century, but actually from 1979. Anyone else out there who would like to join, please come with your call. All right. Well, my point, my comments on the acting and the characterization. The acting, I thought was okay. It was kind of wooden in different areas. I like Wilma. That character is kind of fun, although she is a little bit, kind of standoffish and not that good in this episode. However, in some of the later episodes, she, as either the actor or the character gets fleshed out a little bit, the actor gets to do a little more with the character, and I think became a little more comfortable. And I think that the chemistry between Buck and Wilma got better over time. And if I remember correctly, they did make a big deal about her as being a commander in charge of all the forces and that, which was, they didn't do a lot of that back then. And they did in this particular show, and I think that it was brought up. Let's see. The other characters, not so much. What is the guy? I can't think of his name here. The one that plays I can't remember. Whoever it is, the doctor. He was pretty good in it. He gets to do the exposition and tell us what's going on to a certain degree before the alarm clock actually goes and corrects him. So that's helpful. And he can act as a foil. Wanting to kill somebody just because they violated something and they don't appear to know what they're doing, probably a bit extreme, but hey, that's what the court of law is all about. I will allow it. We talked about that last week, so I won't rehash that. Other comments? Not a lot to say. William Conrad plays the Draconia PA announcer after he had just opened up what the Buck Rogers is expecting in 504 years into the future. Well, we all know who William Conrad is, right? Right? He had his own TV show, Cannon. He also was the voice of who was it? Matt Dillon on the radio version of Gunsmoke, in case you didn't know. So he's a very distinctive voice, so why not be the Draconian PA announcer as well? There's no loading in the red area. So, at any rate, now, what I will do, since it is 11:54, which surprised me because I always wonder if we're going to get a whole hour out of it, and we always get an hour and a half, and plus, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for anybody that has any comments. If you want to talk about special effects, that's fine. I'm cool with that. That would be the next round. If you got something else you want to talk about, that's fine as well. But I'm going to take, instead of going in order, I'm just going to take whoever has comments now, and then I'll take a second round after that. But usually it's just the first round is enough. So if you got something to say, final words on tonight's movie, please come with your call now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot.
Okay, we got two, NT5TM and NV5S. We'll start with Tony. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Tom. I wanted to make a couple of quick comments about the music. Most of it, was a little melodramatic, but seemed reasonably generic and didn't distract me. I did want to single out the song that played over the closing credits. I don't know who performed it, but I have named him Nerdy Ned and his 9 needless nincompoops. I just could not stand him, and I did not watch the closing credits. The other thing that struck me was that, when I think about this in Battlestar Galactica, just what a great debt they owe to the American memories of World War II, because it's really just about aircraft carriers in space. What's the spaceships maneuver like jet planes, just like planes, and in this case the bad guy's ship, or in the case of Battlestar Galactica, the good guy's ship, they're all just aircraft carriers in space. NT5TM.
Oh, Tony, so correct, so correct. All right, next is Virginia, NV5F. Go ahead.
KE5ICX and the net. This is NV5F. Well, before I make my comment, I have to play off of what Tony said about aircraft carriers. They're all ripping off Star Trek, and they didn't want to be too obvious, but they wanted to have some kind of naval reference, so they chose aircraft carriers in space. And I also had something to say about the music, which I thought the theme song to this show rocked. It was awesome, and the rest of it was, it was Stu Phillips made for TV music, but it was pretty common of the time. But I really liked the theme song. I like the theme music from this show, and the closing credits thing, that was so typical of the time, and even into the 80s, to try to have some kind of hit theme song tied to a movie, and it would often run over the closing credits. So I guess they were given that a try. But I thought the opening, the actual theme music from this was great, and it made me happy and cheered me up and made me feel excited about the show. So it did its job. Anyway, that's it for me. K5ICX, NV5F.
Okay, thank you. Comments on the music and the method. So, anyone else have any comments? Please come with your call now. All right, hearing none, I will make a couple of comments, and this always drives me nuts on television series, and I know when they run out of money, this is what happens. This was a very common thing. It happened on Lost in Space, so that was the first time I noticed it, was when they had in the 3rd season, they cut the budget back considerably, like about half the budget that it had. So when they did sets, and this happened on Star Trek 3rd season as well, is they would use black curtains in the background to fill out sets. So you'd have equipment consoles, the furniture and everything in the foreground, but nothing in the background because there was no way to fill it. There was not enough there. And this was true in their hangar bay and all that. There's just nothing. And it's very, very obvious when that happens. And tonight's Batman, 3rd season of Batman, same thing. They showed whole curtained areas in this malt shop or something, and it made no sense, and it just looks weird, very, very cheap. And I'm with Tony. I forgot that awful closing. Singing is just horrible. It's like my TV should break when I heard that. Whoever did that, I think they had pictures or something, and said, if you don't let me sing at the end and pay me for it, I'm going to release the pictures to your wife or whatever. You know what I mean. So there you have it. Okay, that's it from me. Let me tell you what next week's movie is, which should be, I believe, Inner Space. Now, here's the thing. I suspect I'm going to go and double check it tomorrow morning and make sure that Inner Space is still available. But I'm going to tell you, April 1st is coming up, and I'll bet you this thing is removed on April 1. That'll be a Saturday. So you'll want to see it before then, before it disappears. That's just my guess. Just my guess. So we'll have to see. I will put all that stuff up. I will send the emails out tomorrow morning so you got the information and the links for that. That should be a fun one. I've never seen Inner Space, so I'm very much looking forward to it. And now I'm going to go watch Lost in Space because I think it's Prisoners in Space, a third season episode, the first of the third season episodes, I believe. They're in their new costumes for the third season, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. They go back and they fly in space. All right, 7-3, everybody. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat station. So long until tomorrow, which could be 100 years from now, or in our case, 504 years from now. Bye-bye.